In this video, we will learn about the heart, the pumping organ. We know that heart pumps blood to all parts of the body. So it has to have the power to push the blood to the farthest part. So it is a muscular pumping organ which is about the size of a closed fist. It is hollow, cone-shaped organ. It weighs about 300 grams in adult. Now, where is the heart situated if we see? Heart is situated almost in the middle of the chest between the two lungs. Its lower conical end is tilted towards the left. Now, heart is such an important organ, so it has to have the protective layers also. So, it is enclosed in a bony cage which is formed of chest wall, ribs, backbone, and breastbone. So, from 360 degrees, if you see, it is protected from all the sides. Now, heart also has its own membranous covering. So, it is enclosed in a sac called pericardium, formed of two membranes known as pericardial membranes. And in between two pericardial membranes, there is pericardial fluid, and this fluid protects heart from injury and friction. If we see the heart internal structure, it has four chambers. One is the auricle, and there will be left and right auricle, and other is ventricle, which is again right and left. So two auricles are also known as atria, and two ventricles form the four chambers of the mammalian heart. So mammals refers to organisms having mammary gland. The other groups like fish, frog have a different number of chambers. Fishes have two chambered, frogs have three chambered heart. So four-chambered heart is characteristic feature of all mammals and birds. Now if we see how do we differentiate auricle and ventricular section. So the auricles are demarcated from ventricles by an irregular groove that here we can see they are actually bifurcated here. Yes, the irregular groove is known as coronary sulcus. Now, if we observe the chambers, the auricles, also known as atria, are the ones which receive the blood. So, they are known as the receiving chambers. So, the two thin walled auricles are separated by a thin interauricular septum. So, septum will make sure we separate the left and right side of the heart. Now, this septum is thin in case of auricles, whereas septum becomes very thick in ventricles. The right auricle or atrium receives deoxygenated blood from the vena cava superior and inferior. So, similarly, the left auricle also receives blood, that is oxygenated blood, from the pulmonary veins. So, these pulmonary veins are coming from the lungs. Now, if we see the ventricles, ventricles are the distributing chamber. So, they receive blood from the respective auricles, and then they have to push it out of the heart. So, the wall has thick in nature. So, two thick walled ventricles are separated by a thick and obliquely placed interventricular septum. So, here we do not observe it because it is the external view, but when we see the sectional view, we will definitely see the septum. Now, the left ventricle is somewhat larger compared to the right ventricle, and its walls are much thicker compared to right ventricle. This is because the left ventricle has to pump blood, oxygenated blood to all body parts, whereas right ventricle has to pump blood only till the lungs. So to make sure it has enough energy, the left ventricle has more muscle, much more thicker wall. Now, right ventricle supplies the deoxygenated blood to the lungs through pulmonary aorta, whereas left ventricle supplies oxygenated blood to the entire body through a single aorta. Now, within the sectional view, if we see, the atrium pumps blood to ventricles, and ventricles will pump it out through the pulmonary artery and aorta. Now, how does the heart make sure the blood which enters these ventricles will not go back? So, let's assume the blood is in left ventricle and the blood has to go to aorta. But there is possibility of blood pushing back into the left atrium. To prevent that, we have valves in the heart. So various apertures in the human heart are guarded by four valves. They maintain unidirectional flow of blood inside the heart and into the greater blood vessels. The main valves include tricuspid valve between right atrium and right ventricle. Then we have bicuspid valve between left atrium and left ventricle. And then we have semilunar valves. Valve present at the base of aorta is known as aortic semilunar valve. And similarly, we have a valve at the base of this pulmonary artery also. And this is known as the pulmonary semilunar valve. So together they can be called as semilunar valve. Now, first if we see the cuspid valves, each atrium opens into the ventricle of its side by an atrioventricular aperture. So if we say this is the atrium and this is the ventricle, ventricles are larger, this will be the cuspid valve which is guarding the aperture. The cuspid valves prevent backflow of the blood into the auricles. So first we have bicuspid valve which is formed of two flaps or cusps, hence known as bicuspid. It is guarding the entry or the aperture of left atrioventricular aperture and allows blood to flow from left atrium to left ventricle. The bicuspid valve is also known as mitral valve. Second valve is the tricuspid valve made up of three flaps, hence tri. Tri means three, cuspid. It guards the right atrioventricular aperture and allows blood from right atrium to right ventricle. Next, we have semilunar valves. These are half moon shaped or pocket shaped flaps. They prevent the backflow of blood into the ventricles. Now, we have two positions or locations where semilunar valves are found. So first we have a three semilunar pulmonary valve guarding the opening of right ventricle into the pulmonary aorta, a set of three semilunar aortic valve guarding the opening of left ventricle into the aorta. So basic function of valve is to prevent backflow of blood. I hope it is clear to you. Thank you.